The Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app and streaming live on YouTube at the Team 980. And in just a moment, we're going to start the show today with something a little off the beaten path. But just to be honest, like, it's something that humored me. It's something that interested me, something that made me laugh. But there's also a serious point to it. Serious within a football context, not like a life serious. But something that emerged yesterday that we'll start with in just a moment. We will first tell you that coming up at 5 o'clock, surprise, we're going to do an extra bonus mock draft. This was requested on Twitter. We got a tweet yesterday saying, hey, I really enjoyed the mock draft, but next time you guys should go to pick 40. And while we are not going to then be like, oh, yeah, we'll just pick every pick till 40, one of the exercises that we've done on Take Command that I've really enjoyed is we let the mock draft simulator pick for everyone else, and we don't just go to pick 40 for the Commanders. We go all the way to pick 100. So it's a good way to kind of understand, and the reason that I want to do this is because the other day in the What We Learned from our mock draft 1.0 on Wednesday, I said setting up day 2 and letting that impact how you think about round 1 and day 1 and a potential trade back into the first round is really important. So in order to be able to go through that exercise, I was like, you want to know what? The people want it. We got space in the show for it. Let's do it. So, Ant, are you ready an hour from right now to go through 3 rounds of a mock draft?
I think so.
Okay, well, if not, you got an hour to get ready. You got a half an hour until Clinton Yates joins us. So he is going to be at 4:30 today. Right now, though, I want to start with something that just, honest to God, made me laugh. And that something is Matt Rule, the head coach at Nebraska, the former failed as an NFL. Sorry, Matt, it just was the situation. I don't mean to bring up old wounds, pour salt in it, but the failed coach of the Carolina Panthers, who is a very, very good football coach, very, very good college football coach at the very least. We'll see if he can get the Nebraska program turned around, but he did a lot of winning at Baylor, very highly thought of, clearly a very smart guy. But he, Anthony, invited Bill Belichick, the recently ousted, soon-to-be Hall of Fame coach of the New England Patriots, to Nebraska to speak to his coaches. And this, courtesy of KETV out there in Nebraska, is what Rule had to say after Belichick spent quite a while with him and his coaches.
He is so smart, has seen so much, that he can make the complex so simple that it humbles you and embarrasses you. I was embarrassed yesterday listening to him, how smart he is, how simple it was. He went, he went 4.5 hours with the coaches. Forget the clinic. Like, he came in and met with our coaching staff. And 3.5 hours in, I was like, Coach, would you like a water, a cup of coffee? Would you like to use the restroom? Because I desperately had to use the restroom, you know. And he's like, I'm fine, Matt. I was like, yes, sir. And just sitting there and just talking, right? And just his recall from things 15 years ago. And, you know, the only reason why we don't get through more information is because he's having to slow down to make sure you understand what he's saying. I mean, so you have this man who's a savant, right, who's been a defensive coordinator. He's been a special teams coordinator. He's coached, you know, he could be an offensive coordinator. He's been a head coach twice. He's been a GM person. I mean, he's talking about football in a way that just, like, I mean, illuminates things and makes things so simple that you're like, oh my goodness.
I think there's 2 things that I find interesting / pretty funny about this. One, the funny part, and I'm sorry to do this to Matt Rule, but if you're an NFL caliber coach, you probably shouldn't have your mind blown by another NFL caliber coach, even if it's Bill Belichick, constantly for 4.5 hours. If I am David Tepper listening to that, the man who gave Matt Rule a 6-year contract a couple of years ago to be the head coach of the Carolina Panthers and then wound up having to eat more than 4 years of it because it wasn't going well, Anthony, would probably be pretty upset at myself for not realizing that Matt Rule is not on that level when that was the level that I was looking for. So that's kind of I would say the humorous side to it. there's then the more serious side of it, which is this led to a lot of folks going, did the NFL make a mistake by not hiring Bill Belichick? If Bill Belichick is this smart, that he can go into one of the biggest programs in America with a guy who did get an NFL coaching job, and, had Matt Rule not gotten the Carolina job, I don't think he was going to immediately get another NFL head coaching job, certainly not on a 6-year deal to be one of the higher paid coaches in the league like David Tepper did. But, it wasn't totally outrageous that Matt Rule got an NFL job. He had been in an NFL coaching staff before. Maybe he would have gotten an OC job or a position coach job. But he, I think, was in the mix for other head coaching jobs. So, this isn't, as much fun as it is to a little pokey, fun at Matt Rule here. It really isn't about that. It's not like Matt Rule is some dummy. Matt Rule's really smart. He's a really good coach. And so if Bill Belichick is this much smarter than Matt Rule and the rest of his coaches, and he's so locked in and so detail-oriented, our sister station in Boston, WEEI, did some segments this week, and I saw the headline of this on Twitter and on Instagram, shared by Odyssey Sports, of did the NFL miss on Bill Belichick? Did the NFL make a mistake by not hiring Belichick when he got let go from New England? And my definitive answer is absolutely not, which might sound crazy, but this actually proves the point more so than it does prove the point that they missed out, than prove the counter. There is no doubt that Bill Belichick knows more about football than most people on the planet. And I don't mean just most, a plurality of the 6 billion or 8 billion, whatever we're up to, human beings on the earth. I mean, Bill Belichick, from a knowledge standpoint, knows more than probably 30 other NFL coaches, if not 32 that are currently employed. He has that much knowledge. But coaching isn't about knowledge. Coaching isn't about what you know. And I might even go the old classic, it doesn't matter how much you know until they know how much you care. It's part of that, but it's not about how much you know, it's about how much you can teach. And thus how much your students, in this case football players who are getting paid a whole lot of money to go out and win football games, can learn. And I think part of what happened with Belichick is over the course of his 4 decades in the game, attention spans changed, the way information is presented and received changed, his demeanor certainly would have changed, and his ability to connect with people on an interpersonal level is going to change because you go from being a little bit older than your players to older than your players to the age of your player's grandpa. And that is part of life. The players don't get any younger or older because they're NFL players. They stay, 21 years old to, he did have Brady, who played till he was 45. And apparently he's still kicking around the idea of coming back with some interview he did this week. But typically they were between 21 and 35. And they stay between 21 and 35 as you as a coach get older. One day Sean McVay's going to look up and he's not going to be the 30-year-old whatever anymore. He's going to be a guy who's in his 50s, in his 60s. And if he's still coaching, he's still going to have to try to connect to players, and he's not going to be able to do it the same way he could when he could go out with them on a weeknight and or in the offseason and have a beverage, and it wouldn't kind of be weird because the old guy's hanging around. It's just different. And so I think that kind of, and that, by the way, I feel like I should say this because I know Sean a little bit, or knew Sean when he was here. I don't know that Sean actually did that. That was an age thing, not a tactical thing. Point is, I think that the age thing for Belichick, not to be ageist, because I think Pete Carroll did not have this problem. Pete Carroll connected with players remarkably well. Pete Carroll had a way and an energy about him that worked for the modern player. There were other reasons why the Seattle organization decided to move on, and I think a lot of people in that Seattle organization still don't really understand what those reasons are, outside of the results weren't quite what they used to be when they had the best players in the sport, and DQ as the defensive coordinator, and a cheap Russell Wilson that they could build an incredible roster around. But Belichick hadn't, as a personnel guy, had failed miserably. That was part of it. And from a coaching standpoint, like since Brady left, it had been bad. And some of the things that Brady covered for, not just as a player, but as a person, as almost a quasi-coach, because he was 38, 39, 40, 41 years old and had been around forever and was a living legend that had the respect of people. When that leaves your building, you can't operate the same way. And Belichick didn't adjust. And that's not to say with his football knowledge and his people skills and all of that he necessarily couldn't have ever had success again. If Belichick gets a job next year and tries to, is in the right place, like could Belichick win? Probably. He's that damn smart. But if you're giving 4.5-hour presentations that are leaving coaches a little bit lost, imagine what the modern player with modern attention spans and all these types of things, and the way that we learn in 2024 versus the way we learned in 1984, imagine the struggle of that clash. And then you're trying to tell me that it was a mistake to not hire a guy who hasn't been sniffed to the playoffs since that Hall of Fame quarterback retired. And that's not to say that Belichick doesn't deserve credit for the Brady-Belichick run. Oh, no. That was a match made in heaven. Those are muses, those two. Football muses. But then what? I'd much rather have Dan Quinn. I'd much rather have, these other guys that got hired. In some cases, much rather. In some cases, would probably just rather. But this idea that, like, oh, my God, Belichick, now he's out giving coaching clinics. He'll make coaches better. He'll kill it in the clinic world. He'll show you why he won all those games. But why you won is different than are you still able to win in a modern NFL atmosphere. And that's why, despite the headline, good headline, Odyssey Sports parent company headline writers, did the NFL make a mistake by passing on Belichick? I would still argue, even hearing about how much he's still got it, the answer is no. Still to come on the Hoffman Show, Clinton Yates joins us in just over 15 minutes, talking about the rash of pitching injuries in baseball and the latest on Shohei Ohtani's interpreter, who is now in federal custody for the sports gambling debts that he stole money from Ohtani to pay. Clinton's got a lot of thoughts about that. We'll let him unload coming up at 4:30. 5 o'clock hour today, mock draft 2.0, 3-round mock draft. 5 o'clock, we do the first round, 5:15 the second round, 5:30 the third round, and then we'll immediately reflect on what we learned at 5:45. Dave Johnson at 6:15, and plenty of fun in between here on the Hoffman Show. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app, streaming live on YouTube at the Team 980. Coming up in about 10 minutes, you got Clinton Yates. We play America's favorite game. And America's favorite game on a Friday is Where in the World is Clinton Yates? It's a doozy today.
You know?
I do know.
Because I don't know.
He FaceTimed me earlier to tell me and show me where he was.
Is he on the West Coast?
He's not on the West Coast.
Is he on the East Coast?
He's not on the East Coast.
Is he in the Central Time Zone?
Yes.
Chicago?
Nope.
Am I close?
Ish. You're in the right time zone.
Kentucky?
That's technically closer than Chicago, I think.
Tennessee?
You need to go farther west.
Arkansas?
You're getting closer.
Indiana?
You've gone the wrong way.
Good gracious.
Anthony, have you ever passed the Mississippi River?
Yes.
Okay. You haven't with any of your guesses, I don't believe yet.
You said Central Time Zone.
Yeah. Where do you think Mountain Time starts?
Maybe like South Dakota, North Dakota?
No, bro.
It doesn't?
No, farther west.
Like Montana? Wyoming?
Yeah, those are mountain, or some parts are Pacific.
Okay. So
Mountain Time Zone's not very big.
Is he in Oklahoma?
Central Time Zone. Now you're getting closer. All right, that's enough guessing. You'll find out coming up in 9 minutes. In 9 minutes, Anthony and everyone else will find out where in the world is Clinton Yates and why is he there? Because he is definitely in the middle of the country, and it's for an interesting story. He's on assignment out there. We'll get a little bit into what he's doing, but then get into the rash of arm injuries that has been just a plague on Major League Baseball. Why is it happening? What can happen to fix it? We'll get into that with Yates, plus the latest on the Ohtani stuff. Coming up in a few minutes as well here, an update from Augusta, courtesy of Westwood One and Ted Emmerich. Right now, though, and I'm gonna do this live. I have not seen. I've seen that there's a thing with the Allen Iverson statue. I have not looked at the Allen Iverson statue.
Oh my gosh.
You told me I need to do this.
Yes. I need your honest reaction also.
It does not seem like a large statue.
You see it? Are you looking at the statue itself, or are you watching the entire unveiling?
Oh, do I need to watch the entire unveiling?
I mean, not really, but it will
Let's see.
help put into context how small this thing is.
Oh, I'm looking at it. Oh, wow. That's way worse than I thought based off the picture. Oh, my
It's
God.
insane, man.
I love that he's checking it out. There's a little piece of him that's probably like, where's the rest of it? His legs look so skinny. Why'd they do that to him? I know he was.
I don't get it.
He really was that skinny, though.
Yeah, but
player.
for a statue, that thing is the size of the Heisman Trophy. The Heisman Trophy might be bigger than that. It might be bigger. They took a napkin off the Heisman Trophy. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?
He's not a big man.
He's one
Which
of my
means you
favorite
could
players
have
of all
done
time, and
a
this is what
lifetime.
you do.
That was what I was going to say. Because he's not a big man, you could have done a lifetime statue, and it wouldn't have cost you much. You know how much more a Shaquille O'Neal statue costs than an Allen Iverson statue?
Substantially more.
Yeah, it's a lot more. Whatever metal, bronze. A lot more bronze. That's AI deserves better than that.
He does.
That's a shame.
Yeah. Somebody, so I reacted to it on Twitter, and somebody commented and was like, "It could be worse. It could be a model's mannequin with a Nike jersey on it, Reebok pants, and Adidas cleats." You know who that was?
Yeah, that was Dot. That was yeah.
Bad stuff.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of bad statues out there. Some of them are funny because they're of bad people, like the Cristiano Ronaldo one.
Oh yeah.
Have his face all jacked up. I was like, ha, you love yourself so much and your face so much, and they made it look like that. That's funny. Iverson, he's been through a lot of stuff, but good dude at the end of the day. Great player, legend of the city, deserves better.
And do you know where it's placed? By the practice facility.
That seems like a funny bit.
Players and staff members are really only going to be.
But isn't there, like, that's a thing though up there? I think it's Legends Way they call it.
Oh, okay.
So I would be curious before I crush the Sixers. I want to know, is like that just how it is for everybody? Because if it is, then like that's the score. And I guess, are you really screwing anybody if you're screwing everybody? In this particular, don't think about that question too deeply. I don't know. It does feel wrong though. I'll give you that. On both accounts. Give that man a statue in front of the arena where fans can see it. And also don't make it a miniature.
Yeah.
I know he's small, but we can do better than that. One word answer. Who's the next DC athlete to get a statue?
Ovi.
I think you're incorrect. Only because Strasburg is already retired. It's a timeline issue. I think those are the two. I think those are the two current, Strauss and Ovi.
Strauss is getting one outside of Nats Park?
For 2019 and what he did in that World Series? I think Strauss.
I'm not saying he doesn't deserve one, but I'm just trying to figure out like where it's going to go. And
just do a small one somewhere. Apparently that's what you do. We get back. Clinton Yates joins us on the Hoffman Show. The Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app, and of course streaming live on YouTube at the Team 980. And it's time to play America's favorite game on a Friday. Where in the world is Clinton Yates?
I, sir, am in Wichita, Kansas, home of the Wichita State Shockers. If you care about college baseball, you've heard of them. But if you also happen to like pizza, you might know that this is where the first ever Pizza Hut was started. So this is where I am.
I'm
on
that.
assignment, of course,
Yeah,
for other things.
I didn't know that until you FaceTimed me and told me about it, a couple hours ago. I was like, wow.
I mean, I didn't know it until I woke up this morning either. So, it's very pertinent information. And let's just say the road to perdition vibes are very heavy in terms of just what the town looks like. Yeah.
So why are you in Wichita, Kansas?
Because a couple of months ago, some individuals decided that they wanted to steal a statue dedicated to Jackie Robinson in this park known as McAdams Park in Wichita. And basically, a community came together to make sure that whoever took this was found, and whoever recovered the statue in its pieces basically figured a way to get it back. So Major League Baseball donated $100,000 to the city in order to be able to rebuild the statue. There was a lot of hubbub about why and when it was taken. To make a long story short, effectively, a bunch of guys tried to scrap it for drug money, and they got caught. Oof. So, yeah, tough deal, but I think Wichita learned a lot about itself throughout the course of the entire process. And
so for the long story, E60 coming to a television screen near us at some point in the nearish future?
Bingo, bango, Gregory. That's exactly right.
All right. Clinton with us just for his Friday visit. You never know where it's going to go, so you never know where in the world it's going to take us. But there's two big topics I want to talk to you about today, both baseball adjacent. One is the rash of pitching injuries. We'll get there in a second. But we have learned a lot more in the last, really, 72 hours about the Shohei Ohtani gambling case. And it doesn't look very good for the interpreter, who is now in federal custody. And some of the initial reporting really undersold this story, Clinton, which is saying something because the initial reporting was really bad. Now we know it was way more money. They've got all kinds of text messages from the interpreter. And obviously he is seemingly in deep trouble. Federal investigators don't arrest you unless they've got a pretty damn good case. So on the baseball and Ohtani sides, which is a sports talk show, is really frankly more what we care about. What do you make of this now that we have this new information?
Well, I think we are beyond the point of acting as if reasonable ignorance is a decent thing to assume from a guy like Shohei Ohtani. I'm sorry. When you get up into the tens of millions of dollars, and you start telling me that I'm supposed to believe that you changed a couple settings, and therefore that's how a certain person didn't know that amounts of money were being taken out of their bank account, and therefore they are reasonably not involved. I'm sorry, Craig, that just doesn't pass the smell test to me. And what's the biggest bummer about this overall is that, sure, let's just say Ipe is a bad dude. Let's just say he was entirely in this the entire time to scam money from a person. That says something to me about the judgment of not just Shohei and not just Ipe, but also the teams that were involved. It's just a really messy and kind of a sad situation when you think about a player like Ohtani, who is representing so much, not just in terms of his own heritage being Japanese, not just in terms of his ability to be a two-way player, something we have not seen literally in a lifetime in Major League Baseball, but just like as a guy, as an athlete, as a person that we like to watch. You think, man, you've been dealing with this joker for this long? I just don't like how it feels overall, and specifically to the point of Major League Baseball and gambling, et cetera. It also has a very bad look. I'm not very proud to be a Major League Baseball fan today, and that's ultimately what my biggest takeaway is, regardless of the ins and outs of the investigation.
Yeah, so the thing is for me, sometimes when you have these big, giant stories is I like to ask, what if we take people at face value? What does it mean? And often, that's not to say that we shouldn't be skeptical, but sometimes when we take people at face value, it's still not very good for them. And is a different kind of bad. But the Deshaun Watson story was one of those for me, where I'm like, you guys listen to what this man is saying? This man is an awful person. The stuff he admitted to, it may not go technically because of the way the laws are written into criminality, but this is not good, and no franchise should ever put their fans in a position to root for this person. And,
Well,
for Ohtani, I don't know that it's like necessarily to that level because we're talking about gambling and versus harm to other human beings directly. But I do think
sure.
that like the concept of like, okay, let's say that Ohtani didn't know. That's not a good reflection of him. And like you said, then to allow Ipe around if you're the Angels and the Dodgers, like you got to have some rules. You can't just let the athletes, even if it's Shohei Ohtani, even if he's the best player in the league, like you are still the organization. You are still the bigger entity, and you can't just allow them to do whatever they want. And I feel like in sports, that happens far too often. And the teams are like, oh, how could we possibly? And then the other teams are like, well, we would have probably done the same thing. Glad it's not us. And that's just not good enough.
I agree. And there's a standard of just general behavior here that I just don't love. And part of it is not about trying to be out to get anybody or looking to blame somebody. It's just, again, what could have been is so much different than what is. Shohei Ohtani is mega popular. This dude is a household name across the globe as a baseball player. That is unheard of these days. We know nothing about this guy. Once again, his dog's name was headline news in Los Angeles when we found out about it. We could have so much more with Shohei. We could know things about him. We could like this guy in different ways to the point that if his jerk of an interpreter was stealing money from him, we'd say, whatever, man. We just want to know what you like to eat for breakfast or whatever. But we don't have that. We've got a guy that's super secretive and who only presents himself to the world through certain people, and that is his business, his prerogative, and his right. But in the case of PR and what it looks like as a public-facing person, as an athlete, if this is what comes up when you finally pull back the covers, it's just not fun for anybody involved, and I hate it. There's just no other way around it. I don't like this situation at all for the Dodgers. I don't like it for big league baseball. I don't like it for baseball fans either.
Yeah, no, and then of course you put your more skeptical journalist or just skeptical person hat on, and you're like, well, what else is behind the curtain? And that's
Bingo, bango. Yep.
Yeah. So who knows? Clint Yates with this, of course, ESPN commentator, host of ESPN Daily, which you can listen to daily on your favorite podcast app. I'm doing it every week. There's nothing you can do about it. You can't stop. You can't stop.
It's funny every time.
So the other big story, obviously, in baseball right now, not fun either. The rash of injuries to big name pitchers. I will start open ended. I certainly have some theories of my own in listening to some folks and being in the strength and conditioning world. But when you hear or when you see pitchers seemingly going down every week with these arm injuries, these devastating arm injuries, like why do you think this is happening in current modern day baseball?
Well, Gregory, this is where our worlds overlap extremely in terms of everything having to do with physicality, everything having to do with strength training and baseball. What's happening at the big league level right now is a symptom of what is going on at the lower levels. And I could talk about this for an hour, nonstop, no breaks. I won't. But here's what the basic facts are. Kids these days are taught to throw max effort, max velo, no matter what. It's what gets you onto showcase teams. It's what gets you onto high school teams. It's what gets you onto college teams. Rapsodo, for those of you who don't know what that is basically a pitching machine that basically tracks all of your analytics for how you throw. And the numbers that come out of that are basically what makes recruits these days. So there is a mindset at the lower levels of the game that forces kids to max out their bodies in ways that once they get to the higher levels, be it college, be it minor league ball, be it big league ball, as far as I'm concerned, a lot of guys just don't have a chance. And that's what is really difficult to kind of put into numbers in terms of like, how do you gauge when we're maxing humans out too much in any particular sport? There's no real way to quantify that, because you can't really measure the people who didn't make it as a result of poor training methods as youth to try to get to the next level. So when we see guys at the major league level blowing their arms out, double TJs for certain guys, Dustin May in Los Angeles comes to mind, Shohei Ohtani comes to mind. You're just sort of like, man, I wonder how many other people this has affected. Well, you can look around at any major league or non-major league city in America and see a bunch of people whose arms are blown out, whose careers are over because they were trying to throw curveballs when they were 13. I'm going to take a breath here because it actually upsets me because this is something that, in fact, Major League Baseball does not really, in fact, have the jurisdiction to regulate. It's something that the game and the modernity and the general sort of analytics mind has pushed to a point where we are maxing out the human body on a level that is just not sustainable, and I hate it for kids who play baseball.
No, I hate it too. And I think there's a lot of different factors, some more at the major league level, and then some, obviously, like you said, this is starting very young. One thing that I do find very interesting is like, and I'm glad you brought up Ohtani, is because like he didn't come up through the American baseball system.
Right.
He came up in a different culture on a different the other side of the world, and so you're seeing the fact that there is no discrimination here in arm injuries. I think is an interesting thing that tells me there's probably multiple reasons why this is happening. Because it's not, if it was just happening to American pitchers that were raised in the American Southeast, then it's like, well, we need to look at the baseball
in
culture.
Wichita or whatever. Yeah,
right.
No, I get it. And let me jump in here quickly, Greg. And here's my thing though. It's that dudes are playing too much baseball. I don't know how to explain this to people.
Yeah.
Like there's just too much throwing happening, and it sounds so basic. It sounds so simple, ridiculous, but it's true. You shouldn't be playing baseball 300 days a year. You just shouldn't. You know, and when we get to the point where we talk about the differences in specialization and all this other stuff that has to do with youth sports and the business side of it as well, if every Joe Blow from Kokomo has a daggone travel team, you know what I'm saying, who thinks they're going to be whatever, so therefore you've got to play for him, and you're never home on a weekend, you're never doing anything else, it sucks. This is what the result of that behavior is. Human bodies are not capable of doing what they need to do when they get to the top level. It's an issue in basketball as well.
Yeah, well, the specialization is huge because the body builds resilience in suboptimal positions, basically. Like your body, like it's if you train in one way all the time, your body is not exposed to other things. Then all of a sudden in a game, your body's exposed to that thing that doesn't happen often, but happens on occasion, and maybe happens a lot more often in other sports. And your body's like, oh, I don't know what to do with this. I think that's definitely a big part. I'd also say like it's not even throwing too much; it's throwing max effort too much, because there is something to working at a suboptimal level, and from the strength and conditioning side of it, that is going to actually keep you healthy. I think one of the big things that is in the NBA, like as part of the NBA's problem that they're kind of backtracking on and are I think heavily looking at, is did we actually make a mistake limiting the number of back-to-backs? Because what we've actually done is taken out practice time. And so now every time these guys play basketball, it's happening at game intensity, where practice, where you can control the intensity and control the volume, is no longer really a part of the schedule because you play every other day. And so it's actually taken the control out of coaches' hands because you're trying to win games. And so there is like a science meets performance element of this. And then the last thing I'll say, Clinton, I saw this thread on a bite from, I think it was a Rays pitcher the other day, talking about the regulation of substances, not like performance enhancing substances, like like hand substances, rosin, sunscreen. And that's kind of the one he used to use. And now that that's being regulated more, he's like, I'm still expected to get the same spin and whatever, and it's hard for me to actually hold the ball and control it. I have to grip much tighter. And immediately I was like, oh, I know where this is going. And basically, all the muscles in your forearm now are working 5-10-fold compared to what they would if you just had to use the substances to grip. And thus, you are putting undue pressure on your arm when you used to not have to. That is a massive negative impact on the elbow. So while I understand baseball's desire to make sure that everything's on the up and up, I actually don't think that is a good thing from an injury prevention standpoint, both from you're putting a ton of stress on pitchers' arms, and the alternative is they don't have as much grip, and you could have a 98-mile-per-hour fastball slip out of a guy's hands, and that is an injury risk flying towards a batter at 98 miles an hour.
You are exactly correct. We are very deep in physicality chalk talk here, and I get that. But I think the larger thing that I would compel baseball fans to understand is that this ruins careers. Kids having Tommy John surgery in high school to ward off a potential injury that they think they might get down the line is whack. That cannot be how we're operating on a simple human level, to me, as far as youth sports are concerned, as far as amateur sports are concerned, in general. And I get it. There are a lot to do in terms of decisions to be made about how people do things differently versus others. But for me, the experience of what the whole point of being an athlete is, to me, is not just max out until you're done and throw that guy on the heap and then we're finished here. That makes people hate the game that they ended up loving. And it's just, you have no idea how many kids I know, how many kids I've seen have followed their careers, who had one random injury and they just would not go back because they knew what it was going to take in order to get back to that level. And it's something that people are looking at as a number and not as anything that has to do with actually being a person. And It's very depressing, to be honest.
It is. It is. And it's also not effective. And to me, that's the thing that, then we get into like a cultural conversation. But I think it's Norway banned scorekeeping for any sport. Like it's illegal to keep score before like the age of 12. And they're winning more gold medals per capita than any other country on earth, because then your focus is on development and enjoyment of the game, and it keeps kids in sports healthier longer, and they wind up winning in the end because their best athletes actually make it. And by the way, they were developed the right way because the focus was on doing the thing correctly, not just being like, oh, look, this 9-year-old grew faster than the other ones. Let's give him the ball and win the game.
Fun fact, if you've ever read the book Soccernomics, Norway gets the highest actual rating for like soccer nations in terms of participation, in terms of execution, and in terms of people just enjoying themselves. So that doesn't surprise me at all.
I think that's actually where I got that from. And I did read Soccernomics because you told me to.
I told you to read it, Gregory. That's why you read it.
It's still sitting. I'm actually, I can't say that I've read it. I'm still reading it like 4 years later. This is a very large book, but it is literally sitting on my nightstand, and I do tap into it now and again.
I have to go eat pizza, Gregory. Goodbye.
Okay, go eat pizza at the first Pizza Hut ever. Clint Yates, everybody, with us on The Hoffman Show.
Still to come on The Hoffman Show.
5 o'clock hour today sees another mock draft by request. We're not a music station, but, I guess if it's what the people want, we're happy to do it. This time, we'll let the computer take care of everyone who's not the Commanders, and Anthony and I will pick for Washington in each of the first 3 rounds. So a 3-round mock draft coming at you in the 5 o'clock hour. Final Wizards home game tonight. Dave Johnson joins us at 6:15 here on The Hoffman Show.
The Hoffman Show on the Team 980 and the Odyssey app.
It's the Hoffman Show. We are on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Of course, we are streaming live on YouTube as well at the Team 980. And in just a moment, and it will be time for Mock Draft 2.0. Just finishing setting up the visual here for the moment because we want the folks at home to be able to see it. You know, we want you to be able to see what we got going on the, especially considering this time around, we're going to do all 3 rounds. We are going to. It would really be helpful if the what I needed could actually show up in my menu of options here, and but that's okay. Well, there we go. The mock draft simulator. That's what we need. So we are going to do 3 rounds, and this got requested on Twitter. Someone was like, you guys should do a 3-round mock draft. And I was like, you want to know what? That's actually not a bad idea. So we are going to do that 3-round mock draft. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else people need to know. We're going to pick just for the Commanders. That's obviously pretty important. And other than that, anything else? I also feel like we should definitely go lighter on the trades, Anthony. That is one thing that we're pretty trade heavy the first time around.
Yep.
So we can go a little bit lighter on the trades. And I think pretty much without further ado, we are ready to go. And so, alas, I'm going to bring up the war room on the board here. And we're going to get going. Are you ready? Your second mock draft in 1 week. Yep. Okay. Well, I thought we were ready. And then here you go.
Question.
Yeah.
Since we're doing a 3-round mock and we didn't do it the first time, is this technically like mock 1.5?
No, I would say this is mock draft 2.0.
Okay.
Just we'll wind up doing 4 of them instead of we'll wind up doing 4 of them instead of the 3 that we anticipated. Who knows? Maybe we'll wind up doing 5 of them.
All right, that's a bet.
Who knows? Maybe next week after the first round, we'll do another one on Friday. I don't know. Flying by the seat of our pants, bro.
I'll see.
Whatever happens, happens. All right. So, without further ado, I have the board up. And I know you can't see it because wacky stuff has been happening. But if you want to see the board, you can go to YouTube at Team 980 where we are streaming live. That's what Anthony's going to do. Of course, you'll see it at the same time you are. So unfortunately, Anthony's going to see it in real time, which is a wacky bit. But here we are. We're doing it. We're doing it. Okay. Pick number 1, Caleb Williams was the selection by the board, by PFF's mock draft simulator. I did, by the way, just for kicks and giggles here, I put the settings towards the public board. So this is what everyone who's doing this is going to do, kind of group think on the computer selections, Anthony, instead of what we had been doing previously on some of these when Logan and I were doing it, where we went with the PFF board, and then all of a sudden we could trade down to like 7 and still get Jaden Daniels. I don't think that's realistic. So I'm not doing that. That said, I kind of, for the sake of fun here, I'm a little tempted to twist up what we did the other day.
You want to choose a different quarterback.
I kind of do want to choose a different quarterback.
Okay.
I don't necessarily want to trade out because I do want to keep this realistic. And I guess the realistic thing is to go with the betting markets and just stick with Jaden Daniels. And before everyone starts screaming at me, again, I'm going to try to get offline more and not listen to the people screaming at me on the internet as soon as this draft is over. But to make sure I'm very clear, this would be for a thought experiment more so than it is like a personal preference. I think I'm at the point where I probably just take Jaden Daniels and I live with the results. Although I get the arguments for Drake May, and the amount of smart people that want to go with Drake May makes me really question that decision. And in my and I would wish I was stronger in my conviction that I think they should take J.J. McCarthy, because I truly do have him in my own personal, like, I'm comfortable taking that guy and believe in him, that I know he's going to be a good NFL player. J.J. McCarthy is my number 2. Now, the upside of the other 2 is higher. when at the number two pick, I think you feel that pressure, and you're like, we got to get it right. We got to make ourselves right. But we can talk through it here. And then we'll see how the rest of the first round shakes out. Then we'll come back and do picks 36 and 40. But I think the upside of May and that second reaction ability. And when you watch him, there's just like a natural playmaking thing about him that reminds you of the best quarterbacks in the league. That, it's not necessarily the big downfield throws. It's the I'm scrambling, stepping up in the pocket, sidestepping. Oh, my God, a guy flashed open in front of me. I'm going to fling it to him with my left hand. And, like, the supernatural ability to do that stuff is really appealing. And Jaden Daniels has some of that too, obviously, but he also just runs away from people. The way he wrecks pursuit angles is just fun to watch, where he just runs away from people. And it's like, he didn't have to create anything special. He just runs away. They can't catch him. And so that's his superpower. And for Drake, it's his playmaking ability. And I think the question you have to ask yourself is, if you have a guy that is going to miss some layups, do you care if he can hit a bunch of step-back threes? And that's kind of the Drake May thing, where it's like, he's going to get you in 3rd and 9 because he missed a guy on second and 9 after you run bumped on first down. That could have given you 3rd and 3 on an easy out route or easy slant. But then he converts to 3rd and 9 with a very, very high frequency. So who cares? Like, that's kind of the conundrum that you're in versus Jaden's more likely to just keep you out of 3rd and 9 in the first place.
Yeah, I still think I want to go with the betting public, but for this sake, I would like to see us draft another quarterback, just because there's a good chance, or I'm not going to say he has a better chance than any of the other quarterbacks, but I would like to see us go with JJ McCarthy. That would be my second.
That thing is
a curveball, huh?
Yeah, that would really throw a wrench in the mock draft too, because part of the reason I think for the pure exercise, having done enough of these PFF ones where Jaden tends to fall a little bit, I'm tempted to take Jaden just so that the rest of the draft falls closer to what I think is going to happen.
Yeah.
But if you're trying to convince me to take JJ McCarthy, that ain't a long conversation in our front office.
I mean, again, like I said,
I'm not alone on this island. My guy Mark Bullock is with me on this island. I don't think Logan's at least checking out real estate on JJ McCarthy Island. There's some nice boats on this island at this point. Docked up. I'm down to take McCarthy for funsies and see what happens. Again, this isn't a prediction of what's going to happen. I'm not even saying that this 100% would be what I would do. But here's the argument for McCarthy. Good athlete, 4.5 speed, has shown an ability to make people miss. Got good size, and he's still really young, and I think he's going to put on a little bit more. So he's 6'4", like 219 is what he's listed at right now. But he could grow into a 6'4", 225 guy pretty easily with, I mean, anybody that's been through their 20s knows you can put on a few pounds pretty easily because you just growing. That's not even like hey, you get old and lazy joke. Like that's you grow into your man body thing. And so if he grows up and he's 6'4", 225 by the start of the season, even nevertheless next year, like he's got pretty prototypical size. Sorry, not 6'4". He's 6'2 and a half. 6'2 and a half, 219. He's incredibly sharp. Interviews are great. Interpersonal skills are phenomenal. Handles his work, handles his business. He's run a pro-style offense. Can make all the throws. I'm down to take J.J. McCarthy here. Let's throw a curveball in this thing.
You're smiling really hard, so I think you really want to do it. So I'm with J.J. McCarthy.
I got you as a human shield, bro. When people get mad. This was Anthony's idea. Not mine. I'm hitting draft. J.J. McCarthy, quarterback. Michigan. And I will say this. I'm actually going to pause the draft to say this. Jaden Daniels. Wow. Jaden goes 3 to New England. Look at that. In this draft. I will say this. There is an argument. If you tell me I can trade down and still get McCarthy, that is the easiest no-brainer. Because I think they're all pretty even. And you tell me I get him like any one of the three plus, done and done.
Mm-hmm.
I think though I'm at the point that I think enough other people think that way that I wouldn't risk trading back unless I know what's going to happen at 2 and or 3, and I can get back up to 3 or 4, and I trade down, trade up, or swap picks or whatever the deal may be. So that's why I would like yes, in an ideal world, I trade back, pick up an extra first and a future first, and take McCarthy. But I actually don't think that is a realistic scenario as of right now. Okay, let's knock out the rest of the first round. And I'm going to say for the sake of this, and we're not going to trade back into the first round. Although I'm probably going to be tempted depending on how this goes. Let's see. Marvin Harrison, 4th to the Cardinals. Malik Neighbors, 5th to the Chargers. Drake May, 6th to the Giants. Joe Alt, 7th to the Titans. I guess Dallas Turner, you have 8. Roma Dunze, 9. Roma Dunze, 9 to the Bears. Jets take Talisi Fuaga, get your tackle run started. Vikings take Brock Bowers at 11. Interesting. Wow. Jared Verse, 12 to Denver. Fashanu, the tackle from Penn State, 13 to the Raiders. Latham, 14 to the Saints. Kenyon Mitchell to the Colts, get your DB there. Terrion Arnold, 16 to the Seahawks. Fontenhouse goes 17. Wow, that's a steal for the Jags. Graham Barton, 18 to the Bengals. Bo Nix to the Rams. Brian Thomas Jr. to the Steelers. Like that pick a lot. Byron Murphy to the Dolphins at 21. Latu, of course, to the Eagles. Of course, they get a good pass rusher. Nate Wiggins to the Vikings. Cowboys take Amarius Mims. Guyton to the Packers. Chop Robinson to the Bucks. Cardinals take Cooper DeJean. Bills take A.D. Mitchell, the wide receiver out of Texas. Darius Robinson to the Lions at 29. Xavier Worthy to the Ravens. They get a speedster. William McKinstry to the 49ers. And then Johnny Newton, defensive tackle out of Illinois, goes to the Chiefs at 32. That's an interesting pick for sure. So what next for the Commanders? They got picks 36 and 40. We'll make them both next on the Hoffman Show Mock Draft 2.0 here on the Team 980. The Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app and streaming live on YouTube at the Team 980. All right, Ant, mock draft 2.0. We are done with the first round. So we now continue on into the second, where we know the Commanders have two picks, 36 and 40. We decided we weren't going to necessarily trade this time. And so we're going to stick with these picks. Let's see. And if I can find where I actually put the mock draft simulator. There we go. Come on back on the screen. The Carolina Panthers on the clock at 33. And I feel like we should also, can I see the best available? No, it's not going to let me until I get to where I'm on the board, which is very annoying. But I think by position, it's kind of gone as we expected with the tackles, the corners, I guess a little light at receiver. Although you got a couple, you got Mitchell and Worthy going late, but you got a guy like Ladd McConkey still on the board. So going to be interesting to see where we go at 36. Let's hit play, and off we go for the Panthers, their first pick, obviously, because they traded last year. They get Jackson Powers-Johnson, the center out of Oregon. Jordan Morgan, the tackle from Arizona, goes 34. And dang it, Ladd McConkey went 35. He's one of my favorite guys in this draft. So, and that leaves us, in my book, let's see. Well, one, I think it's interesting and worth noting. Michael Penix is still on the board here. Not for Washington. We went J.J. McCarthy at 2 because Anthony said we were going to.
Yep.
Is what it is.
I will take the blame. Yep.
Receiver-wise, there's definitely some great candidates. Troy Franklin out of Oregon is probably the best guy on the board here. Ricky Pearsall from Florida is a guy that I know Logan likes a lot. But I'm looking down, and I see Jalen Polk and Xavier Legette and Jalen McMillan and all these guys down in the 60 to 70 range, probably 75. And I'm thinking, okay, we still got 67 and 78. I'm tempted to stay put on receiver for now. I feel like Logan would be like, we should look at Pearsall. And by the way, we still have 40 to come. So I'm going to say let's not look at receiver with McConkey being the guy that I kind of had circled. Tackle seems like the obvious one. And I do think there's a correct answer here in Kingsley Suamataia. He's a very, very young player, definitely a developmental guy, probably a kind of guy that you want Cornelius Lucas to start the season, but hopefully by week 6, 7, 8, Suamataia could play. But we chatted with Dane Brugler this morning, Anthony, of course, the Athletics lead NFL draft analyst who just published The Beast, the big 324-page draft, just encyclopedia. And one of the things he talked about with Suamataia is he went to Oregon initially and wound up having to transfer to BYU in part because he was kind of homesick. And so this is why those interviews are so important. You got to understand, if I draft this kid who's still 21 years old to come halfway, or not halfway, 7/8 of the way across the country, is he going to be okay in D.C.? Because as a player, I think Suamataia is the obvious guy here. Now, I will also say, I know that Patrick Paul is way down on PFF's board, so I feel pretty confident we could get Patrick Paul at 40, which is a little bit cheating the system. But then if you look at corner, that is also the kind of player that I would look at here. And actually, in part because I feel like we can get Suamataia or Paul at 40 without much trouble, I'd say we go corner here. And so the question becomes, do you want TJ Tampa, Mike Sanderstill, or Kamari Lassiter? Rakestraw from Missouri is also, I think, in play here. Any of those four, I think, would be good picks. Sanderstill is a nickel. So if you want to go that route, he's a very specific kind of corner. Tampa can play outside. Lassiter can play outside. Rakestraw can play outside. And it becomes a who do you like game here. I know Dane, I think, mocked or is working on a big mock where he goes TJ Tampa at this pick for Washington. So where are you at? Inside, outside corner, who do you want?
Who's the overall best player available?
The overall best player available is Tyler Nubin, the safety out of Minnesota, according to their rankings. Peyton Wilson, the linebacker, also an interesting guy. he is an interesting, like, let's sit him behind Bobby Wagner. But, like, at 36, I want a guy who's going to play pretty right away.
Player, yeah. So I will probably just lean corner then. I'll probably go with – it's weird. It's weird because we don't know what they're going to do with Benjamin St. Juste. We also have Michael Davis. And then you have Emmanuel Forbes. I will probably lean TJ Tampa just because we have a lot of versatile players at the safety and sort of kind of like nickelback position right now. Quan Martin, we still figuring out like what to do with him.
I agree.
That outside corner, though, is what we need to address the most. I will probably go him.
So then there's one other monkey wrench I'll throw in to you. Edge. Because Adisa Isaac from Penn State is a player that Dane likes a lot for Washington. Played opposite of Chop Robinson. Very, very good player. And Marshawn Nealon out of Western Michigan has got some really, really nice pass rush juice and is the kind of guy that can grow into being an even more productive player as he kind of gets in the NFL weight rooms and all that kind of stuff. I'm definitely cool with TJ Tampa. I think circling 40 for tackle here, I would be also okay with Isaac or Nealon. I don't think either of those guys are going to be available at 67. And to me, like, edge is not quite the need that corner is because they sign, like, similar profile players, like a bunch of guys who have played and are okay but not great. I think the quality, though, is, like, good at edge for 2024, and it's like, we're really going to need a guy for corner. So there's your other option, and then we'll make this pick and then make 40 pretty quickly. So Adisa Isaac, Marshawn Nealon, TJ Tampa. It's between those three.
I think you answered it already. You already said that corner is probably a bigger need, and I think overall player-wise, I think TJ Tampa is the best guy for us. So I will probably just lean TJ Tampa in this situation.
All right, let's do it. TJ Tampa, corner out of Iowa State. All right, next up, 37. The Chargers take Peyton Wilson. The Titans follow up Joe Alt with Kingsley Suamataia. So there goes Suamataia. Leggett, wow. Wide receiver, jumps way up the board. Carolina takes him. And that's with the Brian Burns pick. That leaves Washington on the clock, and that actually makes our job very easy. I'm going to go offensive tackle. Kieran Amadiji's interesting. Fisher's interesting. Patrick Paul, I don't know why PFF is so low on him. He's the right answer here. Patrick Paul, offensive tackle, out of Houston, of course, Chris Paul's brother. All right, we're going to let the simulator run to the end of the second round. We will catch you up on after the break, more picks. So we'll catch you up on what happens there, and then we will make our next pick at 67 next. It's Mock Draft 2.0 live here on The Hoffman Show. the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app, streaming live on YouTube at the Team 980. And we are in the middle of Mock Draft 2.0. A 3-round mock draft where Anthony and I control just the Commanders' picks. Our last pick was number 40 with the Commanders. Patrick Paul, the tackle out of Houston after we took TJ Tampa, the corner out of Iowa State, at 36. A quick rundown of the next 20 picks as we get into the third round. Commanders will pick at 67. Roger Rosengarten, the tackle out of Washington, who's really rocketing up boards, might wind up in the first round. He's going to go, or he goes 41 to the Packers. Rosengarten tackle Packers. That just sounds right, and I don't know why. It just does. Troy Franklin, the wide receiver out of Oregon, goes 42 to Houston. Rake Shaw, corner out of Missouri, to the Falcons. Michael Penix goes to the Raiders, but at 44, not 13. Braden Fisk to the Saints. Kamari Lassiter to the Colts. They get another corner. Max Melton, the corner out of Rutgers, to New York, so he stays in New Jersey. Mike Sanders still, the best nickel corner in the draft out of Michigan, goes to the Jags. Tyler Nubin, safety, goes to the Bengals. Roman Wilson to the Eagles. Zach Frazier, they get their center in the second round. A lot of people have them taking one in the first. He goes to the Steelers. Chris Braswell, edge out of Alabama, goes to L.A. Ricky Pearsall to the Eagles. God, how do the Eagles always get players that everyone likes? Sometimes they work out. Sometimes they don't, though. Something to remember when everyone crowns the Eagles kings on draft night. Rook Ororo, the defensive lineman out of Clemson, goes to the Browns. JT Sanders, tight end out of Texas, to the Dolphins. Jermaine Burton, wide receiver, to the Cowboys out of Alabama. Adisa Isaac, edge, to the Bucks out of Penn State. So they get Isaac and Robinson in this mock, whatever that's worth. Javon Bullard, safety, to the Packers. Keon Coleman, wide receiver, to the Texans out of Florida State. Kieran Amadiji, tackle out of Yale, goes to Buffalo. Jonah Ellis, really interesting prospect, who's an edge out of Utah, goes to the Lions. Marshawn Nealon, edge, goes to Baltimore. Jalen Polk goes to the Niners. And then Chris Jenkins, defensive tackle out of Michigan, goes to the Chiefs. So Panthers on the clock at 65. Ant, you ready for round 3?
Yes, get it.
We got 2 selections to make. Vamos.
The 78 and
67 and 78. Jalen McMillan, God, another 2 players I like. Go right ahead. Jalen McMillan, wide receiver out of Washington, goes 65 to Carolina. And then Christian Haynes, who's a very, very interesting player because he's good, but he's definitely a guard, is out of UConn. He goes 66 to the Arizona Cardinals. That would have been an interesting one for sure. Okay, so I think positionally, the first thing I'm going to pull up is wide receivers. And there are definitely a couple guys that I think I'm interested in here. I'm okay waiting till 78, though. Devontae Walker out of North Carolina. I'm not that high on him. Speedy guy. Like, I don't know how much variety he's got in his game. Johnny Wilson is perhaps the most interesting guy in this entire draft at the receiver position. He's a tight end in a lot of people's books. So do you draft him and use him kind of as a power slot? I think that's a possibility. But you might still be able to get him at 78. Jamari Thrash, speedster out of Louisville. Malachi Corley, Brendan Rice, who is Jerry's son. You get the Rice bloodlines, not a bad thing. Those are some of the guys that I think I'm looking at here. I don't know that I like them more than some of the other guys that you can get positional value for. I think other than that, I'm kind of open to whatever position. If you wanted to go another tackle and double up, like Blake Fisher out of Notre Dame's an interesting guy. You obviously got all the running backs, like Trey Benson's kind of a big play, home run threat kind of guy that can do a lot of different stuff for you. He's on the board. Jonathan Brooks out of Texas. If you want to go running back, I don't know that I necessarily want to go running back. Jaden Hicks, safety out of Washington State, very up and down player on tape. This is kind of no man's land. So I think then the other position, you look at one, is there anybody that stands out from a value standpoint? I would say not particularly. Linebacker, Edgerrin Cooper and Junior Colson, Texas A&M and Michigan, both interesting. Cooper, and I'm trying to remember, I feel like one of these guys was Logan's favorite sit behind Bobby Wagner and learn a year. I think it was Cooper. So he's an interesting one. And then, not necessarily a wild card, but Kyrie Jackson, the corner out of Oregon, 6'4", 190. So you want the Dan Quinn super long DB, see if we can coach him up and unlock him. Kyrie Jackson's your guy. So we already took TJ Tampa. And now it's like, oh, well, dang, maybe we should have taken Sanders still at the nickel or gone a different direction and take a flyer here. But that's those are kind of the guys that I'm looking at, Ant. I guess the other thing would be to trade. Which at this point, what are you really trading for?
I'm not going to lie, Craig. I'm looking to go offense again here.
Okay.
But I'm torn whether or not I want to double up on the tackles or go get a big, strong, physical receiver in Brendan Rice.
Whew. See, my most tempting guy is let's take a swing. You want to get wild? You want to take a swing? Johnny Wilson. And we're going to convert him to tight end. I don't hate the Rice pick. I'd probably go Malachi Corley over Rice from Western Kentucky. But I don't hate the idea.
What is Malachi Corley's build?
Malachi Corley is he's 5'11", 210, so a little bit stockier. He's not like your big 6'4" type of guy.
I mean, is he a gadget kind of guy? We just had Curtis Samuel leave, and we didn't really use him as we should have.
So Corley,
that kind of guy?
Yeah, he played 2 years of running back. Sorry, I got my guys messed up in terms of the big receiver. Corley is more of can be a gadget guy. Played 2 years of running back. You just got rid of Samuel, you just got rid of Gibson.
Yeah.
So could be that kind of guy, but he's 210 pounds at 5'11". He's solid.
Yeah.
Where Brendan Rice is 6'3", 210.
Exactly, 6'3", 210, big body. And at that point, you can, move Terry and Jahan all around.
We can go Brendan Rice. I think this is probably rich for him.
Yeah.
But if anything, if you're thinking about, because then here comes the question, right? What do you want to do at 78?
I haven't thought that far.
This is what you should be doing. Because I would tell you, if your thoughts here are go tackle receiver, double swing at tackle, you should take Blake Fisher from Notre Dame.
I like Blake. Yep.
And then let's target Rice at 78.
Okay.
All right, so we're going to go Blake Fisher, double up here. And then we're going to hold, fingers crossed, they go Edger and Cooper, Jonathan Brooks, Jaden Hicks, Braylon Trice. Oh, God, I saw Braylon Trice, and I was like, oh, no, Brendan Rice. Nope. Devontae Walker to the Jets, Kyrie Jackson to the Lions. Falcons take Brandon Dorless, defensive lineman out of Oregon. Bears take Devondre Sweat. Broncos take their quarterback in Spencer Rattler, and we're safe. Junior Colson, the linebacker out of Michigan, goes to the Raiders. So that means we can take Brendan Rice, and then we wait till pick 100 because we got one more. Yeah, that's right. We go all the way till pick 100. Let's see. All right, Austin Booker, the edge out of Kansas. Jalen Wright, halfback out of Tennessee. Gabriel Murphy, edge out of UCLA. Javon Baker, wide receiver out of UCF. Andrew Phillips, corner out of Kentucky. Michael Pratt goes to the Steelers. Joins that super fun QB room. There goes Johnny Wilson to the Browns. The Dolphins forfeited pick in the middle there. Jamari Thrash to the Texans at 86. Blake Corum to the Cowboys at 87. Cameron Kitchens, safety out of Miami, super up and down guy. That's nature of things. Third down. He goes to the Packers. Bucky Irving to the Bucks. That's funny. Malachi Corley goes to the Cardinals. Christian Mahogany, guard out of BC, goes to the Packers. Jeremiah Trotter Jr. out of Clemson goes to the Bucks. Then you got Renardo Green, Dominic Puny, Trey Benson, Mason McCormick coming off the board. Michael Hall Jr., Cedric Van Pran, the college football version of SVP, goes to the Steelers, which is funny because sometimes these PFF mock draft simulators, and they don't account for the picks before. So the Steelers took Jackson Powers Johnson and actually no, JPJ went to the Panthers. I think they took 2 centers. Point is, Jerry and Jones, they took the Zach Frazier, the West Virginia kid. Why am I remembering picks from our mock draft? Jerry and Jones, the corner out of Florida State, goes to the Rams. And now the best players on the board are you got Kalen Bullock, safety out of USC. Dadrian Taylor Demerson, safety out of Texas Tech. Maris Lufu, linebacker out of Notre Dame. Actually, that might have been the guy that Logan liked as your sit under Bobby Wagner. I think he's got like really, really high play speed. Powerful down the yeah, plays with some bad intentions. Yeah, that's the guy that I think that we wound up taking another mock at the same exact spot. Another position I would want to check on real quick, tight end. Cade Stover out of Ohio State. Theo Johnson, big traits guy out of Penn State. Probably get him in the 4th round. But if you wanted to go tight end, Cade Stover's not too much of a reach here out of Ohio State. I would probably just go Lufo. Obviously, you could go look at interior line here. There's some guys, tons of running backs. Thoughts, Ant?
I got a quick question before we decide. So, when you think of the draft, granted, we can have a 7-rounder come in and have impact right away. But when we spend picks on these 3rd rounders, 4th rounders, 5th rounders, do you expect those guys to, come in and play right away? Or are these like the 4th and 5th rounders, guys we're going to draft that have potential, we're going to build up, we're going to coach, and then hopefully after a year of sitting, they'll be able to come in and play? So
I would say first 2 rounds, I want guys that can play even if not start in year 1. So part of a rotation or can learn as the year goes on. But first and second rounders, I want starters with fairly immediate impact. Quarterback's kind of the exception to all of this, right? If I think I got a guy who needs a year but is going to be a stud, like I'm still willing to take the guy in the 1st round. Yeah. But other than that, I want guys who are potential starters day 1 in rounds 1 and 2. I also want in rounds 3 or 4, hopefully potential starters, but guys who can play at least special teams, as long as you're not taking a non-special teams position. Yeah. Rounds 5, 6, and 7. It's like I want guys that are going to be special teamers, solid backups. And if I overshoot and I wind up drafting a starter, amazing. You're going to need to every once in a while. And you know what? If you have a guy that you think has boom or bust potential, starter, but might not work out, I'm okay with that in rounds 5, 6, and 7. Round 5, 6, and 7, go any direction. I would say in round 3 especially, and this is the last pick of round 3, I want a guy that I see a path to him becoming a starter eventually. And that's why a guy like Lufo is super intriguing, because I'm like, you can come in, play special teams from day 1, and learn from Bobby Wagner and be my middle linebacker, hopefully, of the future.
Yep. I love it.
All right.
That's my guy.
There we go. Linebacker out of Notre Dame, Maris Lufo. All right. What did we learn from this exercise? We will do that next here on the Hoffman Show as we wrap up the hour. Dave Johnson's still going to join us before the Wizards' final home game at 6:15. The Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app and streaming live on YouTube at the Team 980. With, of course, super producer Anthony Haney. I am Greg Hoffman, and we are taking a look at the mock draft that we just finished. A 3-round situation where we took a bit of a curveball off the top. And again, this was Anthony's idea, not mine, but whatever it's worth, we did it together. J.J. McCarthy at the second pick, and then we saw what we could do from there when it comes to filling out the rest of the Commanders roster. TJ Tampa went as our second pick at 36. Patrick Paul, the tackle out of Houston, to the Commanders at 40. We doubled up on tackle, took 2 swings. Blake Fisher, round 3 at pick 67. Brandon Rice, the receiver out of USC, caught balls from Caleb Williams, and of course is Jerry Rice's son at 78. And then Maris Lufo, the linebacker out of Notre Dame, at pick number 100. It's funny, Ant, because on the screen right now I have the final picture, and that includes PFF's grades. And they don't like some of our picks because we went against the grain in terms of their rankings, but that's okay. What did you learn about kind of who was available and the process of going through now the multi-round, considering I think one of the big things we learned from our first mock draft earlier in the week was, oh yeah, right, we have to set ourselves up for day 2, and that means looking at the board beyond what's right in front of us.
I would probably say the tackle position, I mean, they said it's deep, but to be able to get Blake Fisher out of Notre Dame, sort of kind of late, not too late. I think it was good value. I'm looking at the PFF grade right now. I got a B- for, but
yeah, but they also, they got him rated ahead of if we had swapped Fisher and Paul, we'd got a D for Fisher and probably still a low grade for Paul unless we took him at pick 100. So, I'm not too concerned about the PFF grade here.
Yeah.
I sound like a coach or GM now. I don't care what PFF says.
I just don't think, I think offensively this is a good draft. Defensively it's tough because, again, of what was available for real. I think we don't trade up in the first round, using our first pick in the second round. I don't think we get, one of those defensive ends that there's not a lot of, or I guess that I would prefer in those places. So I just think that the depth defensively there isn't a ton of, as it pertains to the Commanders. But offensively, I think this is a good draft, rich-wise for us because of the tackles, the wide receivers, and those are positions of need that, we necessarily need to address.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I think that the other thing that becomes hard is this question of trading back into the first round. And the way that this particular first round fell, Marius Mims fell like he did in our draft, down into the 20s, and it's going to be really tempting. I think the other guy that we've talked about a lot is Tyler Guyton, but he played exclusively right tackle, and I know everyone wants to replace Andrew Wiley, but I'm not trading back into the first round necessarily for a right tackle. Do I want to trade back up and get my left tackle in the future? Yeah. Do I want to trade up for my right tackle? Maybe not. And I think that, Mina Kimes made this argument so clearly the other day. Part of the reason you pick specific positions that you really want to target early is the discount you get. A premier left tackle costs so much money, and you can get, if you get the pick right, a premier one on a rookie contract. That's why quarterbacks are so valuable, because would you rather pay $5 million, $10 million for a premier quarterback, or would you rather draft a tight end and get he only is a third versus a tenth of the 50, 60 million that you're paying for a quarterback? Premier tight ends making 15, 20 million. You pay your Brock Bowers at 10, 5 million, and it's not that much of a discount. And so you have to balance the production you're going to get and be like, screw the finances with the finances and the value of it all. And so, we talk about left tackle versus right tackle. That is a big element of it. And so that's also where the hole is, bluntly right now, of course. for Washington is that they've got a right tackle, even if it's a serviceable one in Andrew Wiley, and they don't have a left tackle because their left tackle is ideally a swing tackle, a backup in Cornelius Lucas. We'll reflect on this a little bit more next, and then Dave Johnson will join us coming up at 6:15 here on The Hoffman Show. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app, streaming live on YouTube at the Team 980. Great interaction today in the chat on the YouTube stream, and some folks were commenting about us and the lack of trades in our mock draft 2.0 that we just did in the 5 o'clock hour. And what I would say is that it's hard to do the trade up, trade down thing, if you're not controlling every pick. Like, certainly we could have traded down, obviously, when we were on the clock. I thought about it at those second-round picks especially. And I also thought about trading up, but I also admit that it's hard to do without the best available list in front of you, and we're using PFF's mock draft simulator, and while you're simulating, they don't give you said thing. But what I want to do is I want to actually run through that scenario to let people know what it looks like. So we're gonna run it back here. We're gonna do a lot quicker. We're not gonna do like a full 3-round mock here. But I just kind of want to look at the board at 36. If at 40, if we trade 36, and I'm gonna package 78 with it to get back into the first round. So what does that look like, and how would that work? So I'm gonna hit start draft again. And we got Caleb Williams on the clock. This time, I'm just going to go straight forward. I'm going to go with Jaden Daniels. We pulled a wacky and did selected JJ McCarthy in our one last hour. But I'm going to go Jaden Daniels here. And then I'm going to I got to restart it. This is the worst, Ant, when this happens to me. I get one setting wrong. It goes on turbo mode, and then I can't. Yeah, I want to adjust the settings and I want to start over. Yes, I sure do, PFF, because I can't do the exercise if you don't play nice with me. So, Chicago Bears take Caleb Williams. There we go. All right, now I'm going to take quarterback out of LSU, Jaden Daniels. So, really what we're going to look for is when the run on tackle starts here. You got May, you got Harrison. So far, so good. Neighbors, excellent. Giants take McCarthy. So that's a little higher. Probably Dallas Turner here. Yep, still no one. Adunze, hopefully at 9. Yep, there you go. This is ideal. Then the question is what happens to the Jets. So they take Fuaga. Okay, there goes Fuaga. And we've already got Alt off the board. Bowers to 11 in Minnesota. Verse to the Broncos, similar to what we just saw. Fashanu, okay, now we're starting to get a little nervous. Latham, now we're really nervous. And the question's really going to become, does Amarius Mims or Tyler Guyton come off the board? I'm going to say before 21 in Miami. Because at that point, I'm going to pause it and make a trade. We got Fontenot off the board, Barton off the board, Nix off the board. What's going to happen with the Steelers? They take Brian Thomas Jr. Okay. So now we could try to trade up with Miami. And let's say we want 21. We're going to give you 36 and 78. That's a maybe according to PFF in terms of when I offer this. But the idea here is that we're going to then take Amarius Mims, the tackle out of Georgia. Oh, nope, I want to offer that trade. I want 21 for 36 and 78. Offer trade. Sweet. Okay. Got it. They accepted it. Offensive tackle. Now, we could obviously go Tyler Guyton. Jordan Morgan's probably a little rich here. Kingsley Suamatia's mocked some in the first round, but we did this specifically because Amarius Mims falls into the 20s, and then we hit draft and then see what happens. Eagles are on the clock. They take Byron Murphy. You get the Vikings. We can actually speed this up because I really just want to see what happens now. Guyton to the Cowboys, yada, yada. On down it goes. What happens when the Commanders are on the clock at 40? So now you're looking at the same group of corners that we looked at in the previous draft. You're looking at, if you want, a bigger kind of guy, TJ Tampa out of Iowa State, 6'2", 200, got pretty good fluid hips. Does he have the ball production, et cetera? Not necessarily. We'll see if that's their style. Sanders still, Kamari Lassiter. You got a couple of edge guys. You got Rakestraw, by the way. You could go receiver with Roman Wilson, Ricky Pearsall, edge, Adisa Isaac. Like, you're looking at that same group of players. But, and this is kind of why I like this exercise, you don't have 78 anymore. So now you've got one less. So we'll push receiver to later. Well, now you might want to be like, I don't know. Receiver, We got to get one now. We're at 67 if we think we need one coming out of this draft. And I would say the same thing for edge. And, the way this receiver group falls, you kind of get, oh, man, it's frustrating because you have Ladd McConkey fall all the way to 35. Xavier Legette goes 38. Troy Franklin, 39. If any of those guys fall, I think they're the easiest pick here because they're in that second tier behind Odunze, or I guess third tier. Odunze, Neighbors, Harrison, tier 1. Brian Thomas is kind of by himself in tier 2, depending on who you ask. And then tier 3 is pick your flavor of Ladd McConkey, Troy Franklin, et cetera, et cetera. So with those guys off the board, and all you need is one of them to fall. All you need is one of them to fall to you at 40, and this looks like a genius move. You're now, though, in kind of that second wave of corners. Your Wiggins, your Terrion Arnolds, your Kool-Aid McKinstry's, all those guys are off the board. And do you like one of these corners, or do you, I would say, kind of reach, but not really hugely reach for an edge? But you have your quarterback, and you have your left tackle. And this is why I think this is so appealing to me. It illustrates I feel better about this than I do, and depending on how you feel about Patrick Paul, I should say, who we took in that mock draft, I would tend to feel better about we got a first-round tackle and a first-round quarterback, and we'll live with 5 top 100s versus 6 if you can pull this off.
Yeah, I think I'm willing to look defensive just because of, again, how rich the draft is offensively. I think there's not a lot of, for us anyway, impact players defensively that we should, continue to let slide. So I would be looking to go defense here and then focus on, building up our team offensively in rounds 3.
Yeah, so I would probably be looking corner or edge here. Tampa is definitely an option. Sanders still is an option. Lassiter's an option. I don't know what they think of Braswell. I don't know what I think of Braswell, to be honest. I haven't really researched him a whole lot. I know that when we talked to Dane Brugler this morning, a podcast that'll be out Monday on Take Command, and we'll play some of that for you here on the radio show, he really likes Adisa Isaac out of Penn State. So for the sake of funsies here, I say I'm going to hit Adisa Isaac, and then you get to see what happens at 67, and you kind of get that idea of okay, well, what corners are then still on the board? Can you get your guy there? Are you then going wide receiver there? You see the Keon Coleman's, the Marshawn Nealons, all those guys, Jalen Polk, Jalen McMillan come off the board, and it's oh, okay, well, now I see why that was tough, because now only getting one of those guys, my decision at receiver is a lot harder. You could go like a Malachi Corley, that Curtis Samuel, Debo Samuel weapon kind of guy. You could go Johnny Wilson, big slot / tight end, basically. You could, Devontae Walker, speed. There are some guys there, but it's not the caliber even of the Jalen McMillans and the Jalen Polks that just went in between picks 40 and 67. So that's kind of the exercise. That's the kind of decisions that the Commanders and every team this time of year is making. They're doing mock drafts of all kinds to try to figure out, okay, if we put ourselves in these scenarios, what is it that we're going to do so they're prepared when they get on the clock to really have an idea, and you're not second-guessing your board. You've done it, you've thought about it, and you feel confident in the pick that you want to make. Just giving you, of course, a little bit to think about here. And again, if you're listening right now on your radio, and this is a little harder to follow, we're all throwing out names this time of year. I know it's hard. The good thing for you is we do have a visual element to the show, and we will put all of this up on YouTube at Craig Hoffman and at the Team 980, make it a little bit easier to follow along. But you kind of get the gist of it, certainly, even in just the audio. When we get back, no visuals needed for Dave Johnson. The man is a word picture painting legend. The play-by-play voice of the Wizards joins us one final time for the season. It's the final home game. Final game is Sunday in Boston. One final visit with Dave Johnson next here on the Team 980. It's the Hoffman Show. We are live on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app and streaming live on YouTube at the Team 980. And I can't believe I'm about to say this, but for one more time this season, it is time to bring in, one final time to bring in, with a proper introduction, Anthony, Dave
Time
Johnson.
to get the radio party started.
Blocked by Bilal Koulibaly. Oh boy, did he stuff him. Left wing pull, it's there. Oh, that's a pool party. Near the basket, slam right in. And they're stealing the slam. Intercepted by Kispert. Kispert now, foul line. Oh, slam. Ooh, that'll dry your preserves.
It's time for Dave Johnson on a Wizards game day.
Kuzma for three. Oh, it's there. It's there. Big shot.
On the Hoffman Show.
And Dave joins us for his final visit from the broadcast booth at Capital One Arena. Of course, there is one more game this weekend, but we don't have to work weekends, Dave. You get the whole summer off, but they make us do 5 days a week, and then at least give us those two at the end, you know?
There you go. Yeah, it's as you just read, it's hard to believe, and this is when you don't have playoffs, which one day we hope we will be talking about playoffs. But when you don't have playoffs, it's like think about when you're a kid, musical chairs. I mean, we've been going, every other day, since really October, and then all of a sudden, bam, Sunday it's going to stop after the game against the Boston Celtics. But we have one more time at home, and let's just have some fun and hopefully get a win.
Yeah, definitely. And it feels like it's winding down, but it's a little more like, the end of school than it is like, it's a ramp down as opposed to when you have the playoffs. You can feel that anticipation and ramping up. For Chicago, they don't have much to play for tonight either. They've already locked up a home play-in tournament game, whatever that's worth. And then the Celtics obviously have locked up everything, best record in the NBA on Sunday. But still, two NBA basketball games. Should be a lot of fun. You can listen to them both here on the Team 980. Dave, we know what kind of season it has been, but what's your favorite memory from this season? Whether it's like a small moment on the road, one of the bright spots that they have throughout, some of the young guys playing well at times. When you think back of this season, I know you think about it fonder than some other seasons that have not gone the Wizards' way. Yes. But is there like a favorite story that will stick out?
Boy, that's a really good question. I just think as we're playing the Chicago Bulls tonight, I think about the win in Chicago and the joy that brought on that night, where again, Chicago, needless to say, they're a play-in team and fighting for a playoff spot. They didn't want to lose the Wizards on their home court. And the way Jared Butler performed that night are just. But yet he was mad because he was 0 for 6 beyond the arc. Oh, but yeah, he had 13 assists, I think, on that night. But the bottom line is it really was a joy to watch these players like Jared Butler, like Patrick Baldwin, just experience joy at these special moments. And again, it's like the other night after the Minnesota game. Yeah, it was a loss, but they scored 44 points in the first quarter on a Minnesota Timberwolves team that was obviously battling for a top spot in the Western Conference and the best defensive team in the league. I don't care how much they don't take the Wizards seriously. You're busting through your skin to score 44 points on the road against Minnesota, undermanned. Anthony Gill was our starting center against Rudy Gobert. So that's the kind of stuff that is relatable, I think, to all people that are listening, because look, we are not superstars. We go to work every day and try to make it happen, and that's what this team did, and that's what gave me so much joy. It really was, lunch pail, whatever cliche you want to use. It was that kind of team, and people would say, from afar, oh boy, the season the Wizards are having, you must be just having a terrible time. And that was not the case, because you think about it, it's so much of our lives and how we feel about our lives is made up of the people that we spend a lot of time with, and in most cases, that's who we work with. As much as we love our families, we spend so much time working, and that's certainly the case when you're with a basketball team. So, look, I don't know where we're going to be. I believe we're heading in the right direction, but I don't know. I should say I don't know who's going to be with us 3 or 4 years from now. But I'll never forget Eugene Omoruyi, just pouring sweat after a shoot-around because they want it so bad. They want it so bad. And they are, we have the losses we have, 65 losses, because we're not better than the other teams we played. But you know what? They wanted it. They wanted it. And they keep wanting it every night. They didn't give up a lead to Minnesota until 2 minutes left in the third quarter. There is no way on the first of back-to-back. That was a nightmare situation for Minnesota. First of a back-to-back. The next night they were playing Denver, their big showdown. Their dream scenario was, well, let's get rid of this Wizards bunch quickly, rest our starters, fly to Denver, and play the Nuggets. Instead, the Wizards made them squirm and work.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And, we haven't actually talked about this, but ESPN published that big piece the other day that was like this gloomy look inside the Wizards. And I was like, this is a weird piece because I don't think it actually reflects what has happened this season. It also ignored the 2 months of basketball since it's been reported, or since the reporter embedded with the team in early February. And I'm like, it's also a weird bit. If this published on February 15th, maybe it's a good story, but not on April 15th.
Well,
anyway,
no, you just hit the nail on the head. That's why you play the whole season and whatever. I mean, there's no way to mask what was happening in the first couple of months of the season. It was not.
Yeah.
Easy.
But to your point, like this team kept fighting, which is why like Jordan Poole's scoring average since the All-Star break is over 20 a game, not the miserable first half of the season that he had. He kept working on it, and thankfully he's pulled out of it. Real quick, Dave, before we let you go here, you've now seen every team at least twice. You've seen some more than that, the divisional and Eastern Conference foes, obviously. Who do you think, as we head into the playoffs, who is your title favorite? Who's the best team you feel like you saw this year?
I'm leaning right now to a Boston-Denver final, and I think Denver does have enough to repeat. But that's hard, is it? To be honest, I hadn't thought about it a lot today, but I know the other day I was thinking about that I'm leaning toward a Boston-Denver final. And look, I just saw Minnesota the other night, and again, they didn't have Karl Anthony Towns. So Minnesota's for real, and their defense is for real, and the way they get after it is for real. But I'm going to stick right now with Boston, Denver in the finals, and Denver victorious.
Yeah, when we do our kind of power ranking segment, they have been the top two teams, the two constants in our top tier. So no argument from the Hoffman Show contingent on this side of it. Dave, have a great final call of the season there at Cap One. Send everyone around our best, and I'm sure we'll find an excuse to have you back on the show sooner rather than later. We really appreciate your time all year long. Thanks for making our game days a little bit brighter.
Hey, and listen, thanks for your time and thanks for your show, because, again, this is what it's all about. Connecting with local people, and you feel that texture and the vibe. You certainly feel it on your show, as you can talk about every subject, and that is so important. And again, thank you for what you do each and every day, and I'll be listening this summer. Please find an excuse, even if I have to deliver recipes or something. Just have an excuse to get me on. I would appreciate that. Anthony,
write that one down for June topics. Dave Johnson reads recipes. You got that? You write that down? I didn't see your hands move yet, Ant. Get that pen and paper. All right. Well, I'm gonna let Anthony hit the commercial break button, and then he can write it down there. Dave, thank you, sir. Have a great call. When we get back, we wrap up the show with real things real people said into real microphones. the Hoffman Show, and we are definitely looking forward to the weekend. Next week's the week before the NFL draft. It's crazy. Dane Brugler on Take Command on Monday. I think we're also chatting with Mike Golick Jr. That'll be out later next week, and then Charles Davis. That wraps up our Take Command guest schedule. We got one more mock draft between me and Logan. If you missed the show earlier, or the second hour of the show today, Anthony and I did a 3-round mock draft. We picked for just the Commanders. It was a really fun exercise. And I feel like you got the mock draft bug. I feel like you might spend time this weekend just doing your own mock drafts.
I don't think I'll be doing that.
Okay. What are you up to this weekend? You got plans?
So I'm on duty at prep this weekend, and I'm tasked with taking the kids to King's Dominion tomorrow. So I'm excited.
Oh, that's a task.
I'm not excited about the drive, but, while being at King's Dominion, I will participate in the 3-point shootout thingy. I'll probably get on the drop tower.
Are you a roller coaster guy?
Yeah, I mean, the drop tower, that's about it.
See, I don't like drops. That's like the thing I don't like.
It's the scariest one there, so I was like,
yeah,
I
don't like that feeling.
I need something to do to kill time.
Like when you go down like a log flume or a roller coaster where you have that feeling of like your stomach coming up in your throat. I don't like that. Like, I don't mind like a thrill kind of situation or whatever, like going upside down, speed, whatever. Like, that's fun. But that feeling, that doesn't. Some people are like, yeah, that's the best. And I'm like, no, that sucked. I just feel sick now. I feel queasy.
Yeah, my least favorite is definitely the little boat that rocks. Every time I've gotten on it, I've gotten nauseous. And it's literally one of the first rides at King's Dominion, so I will definitely be walking by it, and I will not pay it any attention.
No, sir.
Yes.
No, sir. My dad's in town this weekend, so I see my dad. I don't know how much he's in town for work, so we'll definitely get to spend some time. That'll be fun. But
cook for him?
Yeah, we're gonna cook something. Probably just our usual stuff, not anything special. I will say though, I'm gonna name drop because he is really my friend and we talk about it all the time. Adam Amin, who's been on the show a bunch. He's the play-by-play voice for the Bulls, and so he's obviously in town because he is calling the game tonight. And so he actually came over for lunch today, and we almost had our chat with Clinton earlier. Almost had Adam as a part of it. But Clinton had to reschedule some things, and so we wound up having to do that at a different time. But we almost had a fun, which is a whole other thing. I rearranged my whole office, my whole home studio to get like a two microphone setup, and the camera and the whole thing for YouTube. And then Clinton was like, "Sorry, can't do it." I was like, "Cool, thanks, good job, buddy." So yeah, Yates, I'm trying you out on the radio because you had to do your job. I'm not actually obviously mad. He had to do his actual job, and then he was nice enough to give us plenty of his time after that. Good chat with Clinton today, by the way. If you missed that, 4:30 on the Rewind on the Odyssey app. But Rachel made this focaccia pizza. It was unbelievable. I was like, I married a chef.
That's lovely when your wife, your significant other, they can really cook.
Yeah, she can.
You, not to say you might not.
I can cook.
I think you can cook. But I'm just saying, as good as Rachel, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. Probably not. She's definitely got more variety. Yeah. You've had a couple of Rachels. If it hasn't all been eaten by Monday, I will bring you a slice of focaccia pizza.
Say less.
So that's
I'll be holding you to it.
Something for you to look forward to. I feel like we're rapidly running out of time. We have 2 very funny bites to play. Let's wrap this thing up properly with real things real people said into real microphones.
Real things.
We're not going to be sucked this year.
Real people.
5 and 11, not very good.
Said into real microphones.
The culture is actually damn good.
So I'm guessing, Anthony, based off of that, we don't have another update from Augusta.
No, because we get out at 6:40.
Oh, that's right.
35.
Oh, okay.
Play at 6:46.
Gotcha. Oh, well, maybe I would have talked a little bit more had I realized that instead of, whoopsie daisy. Okay, well, we got plenty of real things, so we'll be fine. The first one is one that we tried to play for you at the end of the show yesterday, but I couldn't get it to Anthony in time once I saw it because LeBron cusses a lot in it. But it is from the Mind Game Pod, which is JJ Redick and JJ Redick and LeBron's new podcast, where LeBron and he talk very in-depth, very in detail about basketball. I will say there was a tremendous bite going around from that show earlier today about the Gortat screen. And do you know what a Gortat screen is?
Yeah, so basically the screener he rolls and sets another screen for the guy coming off.
Right. So whoever the helping big, or if his big rolls with him, you just shield off the basket. So you come off a screen, you kind of do that stop dribble where you put your butt into your own defender to keep him on your back, and then you have just a huge running back style alley, and Marcin Gortat was the first to do this. Very good clip, worth finding. This, however, was not that. This was J.J. Redick showing LeBron James a clip of J.J. Redick crossing over LeBron James.
I just hit play on that. I already know what the this play is. By the way, what happened here? What happened here?
What happened here is that I didn't know that your ass could go and stop and go like this. What the I didn't know that you had that in your arsenal.
The little
rap. The little hezzy rap. Yeah, the hezzy rap. You turned me all the way around.
I'm serious when I say this. Like,
I love the fact that you missed it. Thank you. I appreciate it.
If I had made that shot, by the way, I would have that highlight pinned on every social media account at the very top of my account.
This is 94-94
in overtime. I know.
How did you miss that, man?
It's not a highlight. It's not a highlight. It should not be on YouTube. Should not be on YouTube as a highlight.
You know why it's on YouTube? Because it was against fucking me. Everything is on YouTube. If it's done against me, no matter if it's a highlight or not, everything.
I'll take half of it. I'll take like a half credit.
It's a bit of a you played yourself by JJ, but it's a really funny. It's good content. I'll put it that way, Ant. It's good content.
It's essential content because it was done against LeBron James.
It was done against LeBron James, who literally turns around in a circle. Full 360-orama.
What do they call it? $1 million move?
$1 million move and a 10-cent finish.
Yes. There it is.
And of all people, J.J. Redick to miss a mid-range jumper? It's supposed to be automatic.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe he was
surprise yourself
a little bit too much.
I mean, game's 94-94 in overtime. It sounds like a bloodbath of a game.
Yeah.
Maybe he's tired.
Leg shot.
Legs a little shot. Speaking of shot, what if I told you the Kelsey brothers shot Subway out of T-shirt cannons? And it sounded like this. Pause it for a second. I'm going to set this bite up a little bit more. So the Kelsey brothers took their podcast, New Heights, back to their alma mater, University of Cincinnati. They sold out the basketball arena. Their entrance was electric. I can't wait to hear this podcast. It's so freaking cool because you get, like, imagine us being good enough at this now, or at anything in life, that we could go take the show to Syracuse. And I know the Carrier Dome's pretty big, but we could sell a basketball amount of tickets to our show at Syracuse. That'd be pretty cool.
It would.
That would be pretty cool. That's what these guys did. And then they announced a new sponsor.
Start moving that. There it is. Our first bit of new news. Our first ever arena live show is brought to you by our friends at Subway. That's right. You got to try those all new wraps. We're starting off with a little ad. They've got 4 new wraps just for you guys. And guess what? We're going to shoot some to you guys. Oh, yeah. Get ready, everyone.
Yeah. They shot Subway wraps out of cannons. And I have questions.
I will try to answer them to the best of my ability.
Who wrapped the wraps? Both the wraps themselves and in the paper.
Probably Subway.
Yeah. How confident are we in that particular whoever the employee is at Subway who did that? How confident are we in that employee's abilities?
Probably 5, 6.
Okay. Do you think they used extra tape? Because you know they just typically do like a little bit of tape to shut.
Exactly. Yep.
Did they do like a full double wrap worth of tape?
No, they did one, probably.
That feels like a mistake. Do we have confirmation that none of these opened as they flew through the air out of a T-shirt cannon and dispersed them? Because I definitely saw a couple of people, like picture or video clips of people who caught them and were like, yeah, I have a Subway wrap.
Yeah.
But what happens to the people who were underneath the one that unfurled and lettuce and whatever Subway puts in those, it falls on them?
Yeah, there was one lady that was proudly holding a piece of a wrapper. So I already know that one, whichever.
What happened to the food that was inside it?
Exactly. I have questions as well.
Oh.
A lot to unpack there.
Yeah.
I don't know if they thought that through all the way. Yeah.
I mean, thinking things through all the way that are electric as an idea isn't exactly the Kelsey brothers' forte.
Yeah.
So there's, as we like to say around here, there's that. All right, that's our show. Have a great weekend. We will see you on Monday. Don't forget Dane Brugler on Take Command. Subscribe there. See you Monday here on the Team 980.